Malcolm-Jamal Warner, dead at the age of 54 on a drowning accident while he was vacationing with his family in Costa Rica.
I am tired of running for shade. And aren't you tired of being hustled and played? And aren't we all tired of crying about how hard it is to be black in America, even if it looks like we've got it made?
Has this been difficult for you?
Yeah. Because when you watch someone who you know and love, go through what he's going through.
Malcolm-Jamal Warner, the iconic actor known for playing Theo Huxtable, is gone, and what he left behind wasn't just a farewell. It was a straight-up warning.
And if for some reason you can't find a reason to smile, then that's probably the best time to be the reason for somebody else to smile.
Now that he's passed, people are finally starting to ask the real questions. Why didn't anyone pay attention to what he was trying to say? And why does it seem like every time someone dares to speak up, they mysteriously go quiet for good? Was this just a sad accident, or is this part of something way bigger that nobody wants to admit?
But freedom has its limits, so here we are, tear-streaked and salt-stained faces. Traces of trauma and pain lace our DNA like our black pride is cut and laced with self-hate.
Let's break it down. Malcolm-Jamal Warner's sudden death has fans heartbroken and others seriously suspicious. The 54-year-old star, beloved for his role on The Cosby Show, reportedly drowned while vacationing in Costa Rica with his family. Authorities called it a tragic accident, blaming strong currents off the coast of Coley's Beach in Lyman. But something's off, real office.
Reports that the 54-year-old was in Costa Rica on a family vacation and accidentally drowned while swimming.
According to the Associated Press, local police said bystanders pulled Warner from the water. But when Costa Rica's Red Cross arrived, he had no vital signs. He was pronounced dead at the morgue. That should have been the end of it, but people aren't buying it. The strange timing, the mysterious circumstances, and the chilling message Warner shared just days before his death.
Can you tell me the fate of the people who consciously take the bait and embrace the very traits placed upon them by their captors who by design are inclined to keep them believing they're second rate? I'll wait.
It's giving everyone chills. This wasn't some relaxing trip. Warner had a purpose. He was out there trying to speak truth. And now he's gone. Wait, what? In the final episode of his podcast, Not All Hood, released just 2 days before his death.
The reason for the title is combating the narrative of black life or black culture that the media focuses on.
Malcolm-Jamal Warner dropped what fans are now calling a hidden goodbye. And he wasn't joking around. This episode hit deep. Warner opened up with raw emotion, no filters. He talked about a powerful moment with spoken word artist Tamika Georgia Me Harper, who challenged him on the name of his podcast. When he told her it was called Not All Hood, she cut in quick. Ain't nothing wrong with the hood. That one line shook him. It got him thinking hard. He realized how the media has pushed a tired stereotype of black life, always centering the struggle while ignoring the beauty, complexity, and strength within it. He wasn't dissing the hood, not even close. Warner was calling out the system that's twisted the narrative and made people forget where real culture comes from. In his own words, the hood side ultimately, historically, is what has always created American culture. That's not just a statement, that's a call out. He was putting a spotlight on appropriation, erasure, and the way black legacies keep getting stolen and overlooked. And he wasn't done spilling truths. Warner got even more real about his evolving views on phrases like black excellence.
We're not all hood. The black community is not a monolith. There's so many levels and lanes to the black community, and we wanted to have a space where we could acknowledge, discuss all of those lanes.
He used to side-eye it thinking it was just about fame and flashy success. But then he brought up a convo that hit different about black soldiers being erased from Arlington cemeteries. That's the kind of erasure he was fighting to expose. History flipped the script for him. Malcolm-Jamal Warner came to a powerful truth. Just surviving as a black person in this world is black excellence, not fame, not trophies, just making it through. That line, it hit hard when he said it, and now after his sudden passing, it hits like a punch to the gut. It's like he knew something was coming, like he felt the clock ticking and wanted to leave behind a message that mattered, a message about black strength, struggle, and survival. And then boom, just 48 hours later, he was gone. Just like that. A voice silenced, but his words still echo. To an entire generation, Malcolm-Jamal Warner will always be Theo Huxtable, the chill, good-hearted son on The Cosby Show. He wasn't just funny or relatable, he represented something rare. A young black teen on TV facing real issues like dyslexia and doing it with patience, humor, and love from a strong family. That role made him a household name, but it also put a shadow over who he really was. Because behind that smile and sitcom charm, who was Malcolm-Jamal Warner really? When you dig into his life, there's no messy scandal or headline-chasing drama. What you find instead is a man who carried heavy burdens, quietly. A man who dealt with heartbreak, who stood in the shadow of one of TV's most controversial legacies after the downfall of Bill Cosby and still held himself with grace. He didn't crash like many former child stars. He evolved, he stayed grounded, he stayed smart, and most of all, he stayed real. Through every loss, every twist, and every piece of backlash, he turned pain into purpose and grew into someone way deeper than his TV image ever showed. The biggest, messiest controversy Malcolm-Jamal Warner ever faced?
It's difficult not to not to feel something, have some kind of emotional response to, what this person is going through.
It wasn't something he did, it was something he got dragged into because of his longtime connection to Bill Cosby. And the way Warner handled it, man, it showed just how heavy and complicated things really were. He got caught between loyalty and reality, between a man who helped raise him on screen and a world demanding accountability. The pressure was unreal. To truly understand why it hit so hard, you gotta know how close he was to Cosby. This wasn't just a co-star. Cosby was the reason Warner got his big break, handpicked at just 13 years old, chosen out of thousands to play Theo after a nationwide search. On set, Cosby wasn't flashy. Warner always said Cosby stayed humble, and that taught him to stay grounded too. He even passed down creative gems like avoiding trendy slang so the show wouldn't age badly. And years later, Warner said Cosby was right. When he rewatched episodes with his daughter, they still felt fresh. Their bond ran deep, mentor vibes, almost like a second father. So when over 50 women came forward with essay allegations against Cosby, Warner got hit with the emotional wrecking ball. Suddenly, he was in the hot seat, expected to pick a side in a scandal that rocked the whole world.
My biggest feeling is I feel sad for, just the way this whole, just the way the whole story has come about.
But Warner didn't play it simple. In 2015, he opened up in an interview saying, "He's one of my mentors. Just as it's painful to hear any woman talk about SA, whether true or not, it's just as painful to watch my friend and mentor go through this." That one line, you could feel how torn he was. He wasn't out here blindly defending Cosby, but he also wasn't ready to trash him either. As he put it, "I can't defend him, but I won't throw him under the bus." That was Warner, trying to honor survivors while still grappling with the fall of someone he once trusted. He also spoke up about how wild the media frenzy had gotten, calling it a circus. He wasn't saying the claims didn't matter. He was just asking for people to really think before lumping everything together. He wanted clarity, not chaos. But the pain for Warner ran even deeper than just the scandal itself. What crushed him most? Seeing The Cosby Show, something that helped shape generations, get pulled off the air. That legacy meant something to him. It wasn't just a job, it was a piece of culture, and to watch it disappear like that, that was personal. The Cosby Show wasn't just a gig, it was a cultural reset. It showed America something the mainstream rarely did, a strong, loving, successful black family. Warner once said, "We've always had The Cosby Show to hold up against that, and the fact that we no longer have that, that's what saddens me the most."
After having had such a long path and long journey, you have something like this that you've got to contend with.
Without it, he feared the Huxtables would fade into fiction, just a fairy tale folks barely remember. And this wasn't just emotional, it hit him in the wallet too. Warner kept it real, admitting it hurt on a personal level. He called out the obvious double standard, how works by guys like Woody Allen and Roman Polanski were still airing while The Cosby Show got wiped off the map. It's literally taking money out of my pocket, he said straight up. So yeah, his frustration was layered. Part of it came from watching a piece of black excellence get erased. But the other part, it was about survival, his income, his career, and his voice being sidelined. But here's what makes Warner different. His perspective didn't stay stuck. Over time, things shifted. In the beginning, he believed the show's legacy was ruined. But then a heart-to-heart with Keisha Knight Pulliam, his on-screen little sister Rudy, changed everything. She reminded him how many young black kids went to college because of that show, how it opened eyes and planted dreams. That hit deep. Warner later said, her saying that really shifted my perspective. That convo, it was a turning point. He stopped mourning what was lost and started recognizing what the show gave the world. That's where Warner's strength really showed. Instead of letting the scandal drown the legacy, he stood firm in the truth that The Cosby Show made real change. It broke barriers. It inspired a generation. And that doesn't just disappear overnight. This whole evolution showed his emotional maturity, how he moved from sadness to frustration to reflection and finally resilience. He found a way to separate the art from the man behind it.
They were tired. They were tired of me fighting with the writers.
That's not easy, but Warner did it with honesty and grace, and maybe the wildest part of Warner's story, no scandals of his own, none. In an industry where so many child stars spiral, Warner did the exact opposite. No meltdowns, no headlines, just a steady life built on smart choices and solid discipline. He didn't just survive Hollywood, he mastered it. From the moment The Cosby Show wrapped, Malcolm-Jamal Warner made one thing clear. He wasn't gonna let the world box him in as just Theo. In fact, he straight up admitted there was a time when he hated being called that. And it wasn't just about emotions, it was strategy. He was on a mission to show he was way more than a childhood character. And he didn't just talk about it, he proved it. Warner took his career in every direction possible. He stepped behind the camera, directing shows like Kenan and Kel. He built a whole second lane as a serious musician and spoken word artist. Not only did he win a Grammy for Best Traditional R&B Performance, he even snagged a Grammy nomination for Best Spoken Word Poetry Album. That's range. As an actor, he stayed unpredictable. He didn't recycle the same roles or lean on nostalgia. He co-starred in the comedy Malcolm and Eddie, tackled dramatic roles in shows like The Resident, Suits, and Major Crimes, and even showed up in the critically acclaimed American crime story, The People vs. O.J. Simpson. Every role was another step away from Theo and another flex of his talent. This wasn't luck, this was hustle. Warner worked for that respect. He wanted people to see him as a real artist, not just some washed up kid from the 80s. And guess what? He pulled it off. And here's what makes his journey even more impressive. No scandals, no courtroom mess, no addiction stories. While so many child stars crashed out, Warner stayed solid. Why? He gives credit to his mom, Pamela, his manager, and his rock. She kept him focused and taught him discipline from day one. And that foundation, it made all the difference.
As I remind myself that no matter what's going on, there's always a reason to smile. Like if you just take a minute to stop and take stock, I guarantee you can find at least one reason to smile.
Even back in the 80s, Malcolm-Jamal Warner was ahead of his time, spreading positive vibes before it was the cool thing to do. In his 1988 book, Theo and Me Growing Up Okay, he dropped real talk for young fans, warning them about drugs, pushing them to make smart choices. That book wasn't about flexing fame, it was about responsibility. And that's the thing, his life stayed clean, no scandals, no wild headlines. Warner didn't just survive the child star lifestyle, he studied it. He watched how others crashed and burned and then mapped out a whole life to dodge those same traps. He was playing chess while everyone else was playing checkers. His growth as an artist tells its own powerful story. Yeah, his first book still leaned into his TV image, but as he matured, his art started hitting harder and going deeper. His Grammy-nominated spoken word album, Hiding in Plain View, wasn't just about rhymes, it was about real life. He tackled mass incarceration, racism, and deportation with sharp focus. Then came his 2017 short film, You Can't Hear Me, another bold project that spoke truth and didn't play it safe. None of that came out of nowhere. Warner's voice was shaped early on thanks to his dad, who made sure he learned about legends like Langston Hughes as a kid. That foundation gave him a different kind of awareness, a purpose. Warner's evolution from TV teen to socially conscious artist wasn't an accident. It's what happens when talent meets intention. When someone decides to grow on their own terms, no matter how loud the industry gets. He didn't let the spotlight own him. He took control of his own narrative. And while the Cosby scandal brought big public challenges, it's the quiet personal moments that shaped Warner the most, the ones that never made headlines. One of the deepest heartbreaks came in his early adult years, the tragic death of Michelle Thomas, his former girlfriend and Cosby Show co-star. She played Justine, Theo's on-screen love, but off-screen, their bond was real. Her passing was a devastating blow that forever changed how he approached love, fame, and guarding his privacy. Even after their romantic relationship ended in 1994, Malcolm-Jamal Warner and Michelle Thomas stayed tight. Their connection never faded. So when Thomas was diagnosed with a rare and aggressive stomach cancer in 1997, Warner stood by her. And when she passed in December 1998, at just 30 years old, reports say he was right there by her side. Losing someone that young, someone who shared not just the fame, but a deep emotional bond, was a brutal wake-up call. It was Warner's first real brush with mortality, and he handled it with quiet strength. No headlines, no drama, just deep grief and serious reflection, far away from the spotlight. That kind of loss changes a person. It likely helped shape the calm, grounded, and thoughtful version of Warner that fans came to know in his later years. But years later, Warner's love life took a very different turn, one that played out in the public eye. From 2011 to 2013, he was in a high-profile relationship with actress Regina King. They'd known each other since back in their teenage stardom days and even moved in together. On the surface, it looked like a power couple built to last. But in 2013, things ended suddenly and the breakup turned messy fast. Rumors hit the press that Warner had abruptly told King and her son to move out. Then, in a 2015 interview,
I had this show and felt like people was trying to control me. I was freaked out. I don't know, I just had to get out of there. I just walked away. Since $50 million, it's all gone. I'm scared.
King dropped a bomb. She claimed Warner broke up with her on Valentine's Day and then sent flowers afterward with a note that read, "I still love you." Her response? She threw the flowers away. That breakup wasn't just painful, it was public, messy, and completely different from the private heartbreak he faced with Michelle Thomas. While losing Michelle made him cherish love in a deeper way, the Regina King split pushed him to draw some serious boundaries. After that, Warner shut it down. No more headlines, no oversharing. He kept his personal life locked down, rarely speaking on relationships in interviews or sharing anything on social media. It was clear. After all that heartache, he learned the hard way what needed to stay private. Those two major experiences, losing Michelle Thomas and breaking up with Regina King, taught Malcolm-Jamal Warner some serious lessons. He learned just how fragile love really is and how dangerous it can get when your private life becomes a public circus. One was a quiet, soul-crushing loss that deepened his emotional strength. The other, a public mess that made him put up walls to protect his peace. And it's those very lessons that helped shape the thoughtful, grounded man he became. Now fans are starting to put the pieces together, and the pattern is getting harder to ignore. Every time a black celebrity starts keeping it real, speaking truth, and breaking from the script, something happens: tragedy, silence, disruption. Warner was stepping into a whole new lane. He wasn't just talking about the past, he was trying to rebuild the future. Through his podcast, he was creating space to speak freely about identity, struggle, and power, a space that wasn't sugar-coated or packaged to make Hollywood feel comfortable. And that kind of honesty, that's not always welcome in the industry. It may have looked small from the outside, but that podcast, that voice, it was pushing back against the system, and that made it dangerous to the status quo. Then came what fans now call the Meghan Markle moment. It was subtle, but sharp. During a past appearance on the Touré Show podcast, Warner was asked about working with Meghan during their time on Suits. At first, his answer seemed polite. He called her cool and nice, but then came the twist. When asked if he knew she was black, Warner didn't dodge. "The great thing is that she knew," he said. It sounds like a compliment, but the subtext, that's where it gets real. Warner wasn't hyping Markle up, he was making a point. Warner's words about Meghan Markle weren't just casual commentary. He was dropping something way deeper. He was pointing to the fact that she knew her identity, but didn't always show it. That her closeness to whiteness wasn't just how it played out, it was a choice. And maybe, just maybe, Hollywood preferred it that way. He didn't need to spell it out. The pause, the tone, the weight behind those words, it said everything. A quiet call out wrapped in diplomacy. And now, with everything that's come to light, people are going back and replaying that moment, seeing it with fresh eyes, because this is the same industry that once celebrated Warner as a teen icon in the 80s, then kept him at a distance as he transformed into a real artist. He became a director, a Grammy-winning musician, a spoken word poet, an advocate. He did the work, but Hollywood never rolled out the red carpet for that part of him. He wasn't a tabloid regular. He wasn't out partying for headlines. He was building legacy, quietly, intentionally, powerfully. And when he passed, crickets, no major tributes, no primetime specials, just a couple of muted headlines and silence. That silence speaks volumes. This man helped shape a whole generation's childhood, and now it's like Hollywood wants to forget. But fans aren't forgetting. They're replaying his last podcast episode and realizing he wasn't just talking, he was leaving clues. He spoke on cultural erasure, on how black soldiers fought for freedoms they never got to live, on how the hood, while demonized, actually gave birth to some of America's greatest contributions, and how real success, it ain't about money, it's about what you survive. Now he's gone, right at the moment when his truth was finally starting to cut through the noise. At this point, it's not just random, it's looking like a pattern, and people are starting to wake up. Malcolm-Jamal Warner's death now feels like just one more in a growing list of tragic losses, each one happening right when someone starts telling the truth. Think about it. Chadwick Boseman passed while quietly fighting cancer, even as he delivered powerful roles that flipped the script on whitewashed history. Nipsey Hussle was gunned down after pushing messages of ownership, generational wealth, and real community empowerment. Then there's Dave Chappelle. He didn't die, but he nearly got erased for walking away from a corrupt system and saying what others were too scared to say. And now Warner, who finally found his voice, finally stopped playing it safe, is gone. This ain't about conspiracies, but something doesn't feel right. Every time a black voice dares to speak raw truth, especially when it doesn't fit the industry's polished version of success, something goes down. If they're not silenced outright, they're discredited, erased, or taken before their time. Warner was speaking up for the hood, for real culture, for the stories that don't sell ad space, and just as people were starting to listen, silence. He deserved better than a side mention in a gossip blog. He deserved more than a shrug from Hollywood. Malcolm-Jamal Warner was a man with a message, one that made people uncomfortable because it told the truth. And now that message is all we've got left, so let's not waste it. Let's really listen before the next voice gets shut down. If this video moved you, make sure to like, comment, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next breakdown, and drop your thoughts below. We're reading everything. See you in the next one. Stay sharp, stay aware, and rest in power, Malcolm.